Shedeur Sanders has become more than just a quarterback in waiting. He's now the face of a deeper unrest brewing in Cleveland. When Kevin Stefanski kept him benched against Miami, even with the game in hand, the fan base erupted with a mix of disbelief and fury. But this wasn't just about one game. Stadium chants, media backlash, and online outrage all point to a fan culture no longer willing to accept decisions that feel rooted in fear or...
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Favoritism. The message is clear. This isn't just about football anymore. It's about trust, transparency, and the future of a franchise that's drifting from its supporters. If the Browns continue down this path, they risk igniting a full-blown identity crisis. Sanders represents growth, promise, and a shift toward something new, and every snap he doesn't take feels like a step backward. Stefanski's leadership now faces a defining moment. Recalibrate the direction of the team or risk losing more than just a player. In the weeks ahead, the Browns aren't just playing for wins, they're fighting to preserve credibility, cohesion, and control of their own narrative. The Cleveland Browns are no strangers to controversy, but this one feels different. Because when you have a promising young quarterback like Shedeur Sanders, poised, dynamic, ready to lead, and you still decide to keep him on the bench in a game you won convincingly, that's not just a missed opportunity. That's a strategic failure. And fans, insiders, and even former players are calling it what it is, a disaster of leadership. Kevin Stefanski's decision to bench Sanders during the Browns' dominant performance against the Dolphins didn't just spark some light criticism. It triggered a full-on meltdown across the NFL landscape. From sports talk panels to locker room whispers, the conversation has shifted from curiosity to concern, and now to outrage. Let's be absolutely clear here. Sanders wasn't held out because the moment was too big. It wasn't because the game was close. It wasn't because Dillon Gabriel was putting on a clinic. No, this was a controlled game, a commanding victory. The kind of setting you dream of as a coach if you're trying to develop a rookie quarterback. And still, Shedeur didn't see the field. Not even for a courtesy drive. Not even for a handoff-heavy series to drain the clock. And now the question everyone's asking is, why? Why is Stefanski so determined to keep Sanders buried behind Gabriel? Why, after preaching player development, is he doing the exact opposite when the stakes are low and the upside is high? It's not a rhetorical question. Because the answers coming out of Berea aren't good enough. We're sticking to our plan. That's the go-to. That's the shield. But that plan has never been clearly defined. What fans see is a coach actively avoiding scenarios that would naturally call for Sanders to get reps. And the only logical conclusion left is the one people are saying out loud now. This isn't about strategy anymore. It's about control. It's about power. It's about Stefanski refusing to open the door to a quarterback who could change the entire dynamic of the team, and maybe the narrative around his own leadership. Because if Shedeur gets in and plays well even in limited time, everything shifts. Then it's not just a developmental year, it's the start of a new era. The team, the fanbase, the league, they all start asking different questions. Tougher questions. Like why he wasn't playing sooner. Like why he wasn't even given a chance. Like whether Stefanski was protecting the team, or just protecting himself. And that's where things get ugly. Because the whispers inside the building have already started. Multiple insiders have reported internal frustration with how this has been handled. Some players are confused. Some are openly questioning the direction. There are even rumblings that locker room trust is being tested, fractured even, as Stefanski continues to ignore what feels like an obvious move. This isn't just about one quarterback. It's about leadership philosophy. When you preach accountability and growth but then make decisions that seem rooted in fear, you lose credibility. When your locker room sees talent being stifled, not because of performance but because of politics, you lose authority. And when your fans start turning on you because you won't give the future a shot in games you've already won, you're not just losing support, you're risking everything. Because Shedeur Sanders is the future, or at least he was supposed to be. He was drafted with high expectations. He's known for his calm demeanor and high football IQ. He's already earned the respect of some veterans. And more than anything, he's a quarterback with the kind of upside that other teams are now sniffing around for. Yeah, you read that right. Teams are already watching. There are whispers across the league, real interest building from quarterback-needy organizations who would love the chance to develop Sanders. Teams that are shocked he hasn't played. Teams that are quietly waiting to see if Cleveland screws this up bad enough for them to make a move. And if that happens, If Shedeur is traded because the Browns were too stubborn to let him play, that's not just a black eye for the franchise. That's a full-on identity collapse. Because you don't recover from that. Not after everything this team has been through with quarterbacks. Not after decades of instability. Not after finally drafting a player with potential only to bury him behind a veteran who, while solid, isn't the answer long-term. Fans know this. They've been through every version of this story already. But this one hurts more, because it didn't have to go this way. This one feels like a deliberate choice to repeat the worst patterns of the past. To stick with what's safe even if it leads to nowhere. And the impact is already showing. The chants during the game. The fan reactions online. The media call-outs. It's all boiling over. Because this fan base isn't stupid. They've been burned enough to know the difference between cautious and cowardly. And this is cowardly. It's one thing to ease a rookie in. It's another to completely ignore the most obvious windows to give him snaps. To pretend like Sanders playing in a game that's already over is somehow going to damage his development. It's not development that's being protected. It's an ego. And when a coach starts making decisions based on fear of losing the narrative, rather than what's best for the team, the consequences are brutal. Loss of locker room unity. Collapse in fan confidence. And ultimately loss of the job. Because that's where this could be headed. If the Browns continue to sideline Sanders while the media pressure mounts, while other teams express interest, while fans lose patience, Stefanski's grip on this team will get shakier by the week. And the longer this drags on, the more it will look like a coach choosing his own comfort over the franchise's future. And what about Shedeur? He's done everything right. He hasn't made noise. He's stayed professional. He's been ready. And now he's watching other rookies around the league get meaningful minutes while he's stuck holding a clipboard, even when his team is cruising to a win. How long does that patience last? At what point does his camp start looking for better options? At what point does he decide that sitting behind a wall of excuses isn't how he wants to spend the prime of his development? Because if that day comes, if Sanders finally reaches a breaking point, the Browns will have no one to blame but themselves. This isn't about talent anymore. This is about leadership. And the Browns are failing that test. They're losing credibility week by week, snap by snap. And they're putting the entire trajectory of their quarterback room, and maybe their entire rebuild, on the line just to delay a conversation they don't want to have. Well, too bad. That conversation is here. And every week Stefanski waits, the pressure builds. The fan base gets louder. The locker room gets colder. And the rest of the league? They get bolder. So if Cleveland still wants to be the team that builds through the draft, invests in young talent, and changes the narrative, it starts by playing Shedeur Sanders. Not next year. Not when the season's out of reach. No. Because this isn't just about one game anymore. This is about the soul of the franchise. Let us know what you think. Has Stefanski lost the plot? Should Shedeur already be starting? Is this delay justified, or is it self-sabotage? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like if you're tired of seeing potential wasted, share this with a Browns fan who needs to vent, and don't forget to subscribe to stay updated as this story continues to spiral. Because if Shedeur Sanders doesn't get on that field soon, Cleveland's not just risking a quarterback. They're risking everything. At this point, what more is there to protect? The Browns have a decision in front of them, one that feels so painfully obvious to the rest of the football world, but continues to be dragged out like some twisted psychological experiment. Shedeur Sanders, your highly touted rookie quarterback, is being shelved, sidelined, and systematically ignored in favor of playing it safe, all while your fanbase is setting off metaphorical sirens every single week. This isn't subtle anymore. It's not nuanced. It's not open to interpretation. It's a full-blown organizational failure in progress. And the longer it continues, the more it reveals not just a coaching misstep, but a complete lack of self-awareness from top to bottom. Let's just walk through what we all witnessed. A dominant win against the Miami Dolphins. A game the Browns controlled. The kind of game where any coach with half a long-term vision would have said, "We've got this one. Let's get the kid some live reps." But Kevin Stefanski? No. Not even a sniff. No series for Shedeur. No handoff-heavy drives. No prepackaged red zone packages to test his feel under pressure. Nothing. And now everyone's asking the same question. Why is this happening again? Because this isn't the first time. It's a pattern. It's a choice. And it's starting to look a lot less like strategy and a whole lot more like fear. Fear of what happens if Sanders looks good. Fear of the locker room starting to shift its allegiance. Fear of the fans demanding something Stefanski clearly isn't ready to give up. Control. And control is exactly what this is about now. This isn't a debate about development timelines. This isn't about bringing him along slowly. This is about a head coach deliberately avoiding the future because he's afraid it might outshine the present. You think Stefanski doesn't know what'll happen the moment Shedeur gets into a game and throws a 25-yard dime? Or scrambles out of the pocket and picks up a third down with his legs? You think he doesn't hear the noise building every single week? He hears it. He just doesn't want to deal with it. Because if Shedeur succeeds, if even one drive goes well, it sparks something Stefanski won't be able to contain. It's no longer his team. It's Shedeur's. It's the locker rooms. It's the fans. The narrative shifts permanently, and that's a risk Stefanski clearly isn't ready to take. But here's the issue with trying to control everything: eventually it controls you. And right now, Stefanski's decisions are being dictated by that fear. Fear of giving up the narrative. Fear of the unknown. Fear of being forced to adjust his identity as a coach. But leadership doesn't come with guarantees. It comes with hard choices. And right now he's making the wrong one over and over again. And this isn't just hurting Shedeur. This is impacting everything. The fanbase? Completely alienated. You've got lifelong Browns fans who have seen quarterback after quarterback get mismanaged, and now they're watching it happen again, in slow motion. They want to be excited. They want to believe. But what are they supposed to believe in when the team's most promising young talent is being kept in a glass case? You're not developing him. You're hiding him. You're not easing him in. You're holding him back. And worst of all, you're not being honest about it. Because if this were really about development, there'd be a clear path. A defined process. A timeline. But all we get are vague deflections, dodged questions, and the same recycled line: we're sticking to the plan. What plan? The plan where your QB1 is 26 and playing like a game manager while your rookie QB2 can't even sniff a rep in a blowout? The plan where fans are actively turning on the coaching staff in the middle of a win? The plan where locker room trust is leaking because players are watching talent be ignored? Because if that's the plan, it's broken. And it's not just hurting the Browns in the short term. It's setting the team back years. Because eventually, Shedeur Sanders is going to stop being patient. And why should he wait forever while teams across the league are already making calls? That's not speculation. That's not hypothetical. That's real. There are teams out there watching this unfold and thinking, if Cleveland doesn't want him, we do. They know what he brings to the table. The intangibles. The confidence. The upside. And more importantly, they're not afraid to play him. So let's say it all finally boils over. The tension, the pressure, the frustration, both inside the building and out. Let's say Shedeur's camp asks for a trade. Let's say Cleveland lets it happen. You know what happens next? He ends up on a team that actually trusts him. He plays. He develops. He thrives. And Cleveland? They get left holding the bag, again. Another young quarterback they couldn't figure out. Another talent they misused. Another chapter in the long, painful book titled, What Could Have Been. And for what? A few more weeks of pretending everything's fine? The most frustrating part is that this is still fixable, barely. The Browns could stop the bleeding. They could shift this narrative with one bold move. Give Shedeur meaningful reps. Let the kid show what he can do. Empower the locker room. Reignite the fans. Prove that this franchise has learned from its past. But to do that, they'd have to let go of the illusion of control. They'd have to admit that the current approach isn't working. And that's the part that seems so hard for Stefanski to accept. Because acknowledging that Shedeur deserves a chance means admitting that maybe, just maybe, this entire QB situation has been mishandled from the start. And that's a tough pill to swallow for a coach already under pressure. But sometimes swallowing your pride is the only way to stop the house from collapsing. Because this story is about to reach a breaking point. Whether it's another week of Shedeur riding the bench, or another sideline shot of him standing alone, helmet in hand, watching a game slip by without being allowed to impact it. The longer this goes, the harder it is to undo. So here's the choice: play Shedeur now and begin the process of earning back trust, or double down again and prepare for the backlash to turn permanent. Because this situation has become a defining moment. Not just for Stefanski. Not just for Sanders. But for the entire Cleveland Browns franchise. This is where they decide who they are. Are they a team willing to embrace change when the moment demands it? Or are they a team so afraid of rocking the boat that they'll watch it sink? We already know what the fans think. We know what insiders are saying. We even know what some in the locker room are starting to believe. Now it's time for the Browns to decide what they're going to do about it. This saga isn't just a story of mismanagement. It's becoming a masterclass in how to fumble a franchise's future in real time. We're not talking about a four-string practice squad guy here. We're talking about Shedeur Sanders, a quarterback with pedigree, poise, and playmaking ability. Someone who has shown every indication he's ready to take on a bigger role. Someone the entire football world is watching closely. And yet, week after week, Kevin Stefanski treats him like a developmental project to stash, not a potential franchise leader to build around. And that's what makes this situation feel so much heavier than your average QB debate. Because this isn't just about who starts. This is about the message being sent, to the locker room, to the fans, and to Shedeur himself. And the message is loud and clear: it's not your time. Doesn't matter how talented you are. Doesn't matter what the game situation is. Doesn't matter what the crowd's chanting or what your teammates think. We're going to ride with the safe choice. The familiar one. Even if it costs us in the long run. That kind of message? It sticks. And not in a good way. The longer Shedeur is forced to sit, the more it undermines the very culture the Browns claim to be building. A culture that's supposed to be about accountability. About merit. About doing what's best for the team, not what's easiest for the coach. But when a young QB is being iced out for reasons no one can justify with a straight face, that culture turns toxic real fast. Players see that. Veterans notice who's being developed and who's being buried. Rookies notice who's getting opportunity and who's being ignored. It creates division. Quiet, subtle at first. But it spreads. Because when leadership starts making decisions that don't make football sense, everyone starts asking the same question. Who are we really doing this for? Because it sure doesn't look like this is for the team anymore. Let's be real. Dillon Gabriel, while serviceable, isn't doing anything that warrants this much protection. He's been fine. That's it. Fine. And fine doesn't build dynasties. It doesn't win playoff games in January. It doesn't energize a fan base starving for more than mediocrity. It definitely doesn't justify stalling the development of your most exciting young player. At some point you have to stop playing scared. And right now that's exactly what this looks like: scared coaching. Afraid to make the bold move. Afraid to see what Shedeur can actually do in a real game scenario. Afraid that it might change the status quo too fast, too soon. But here's the thing Stefanski seems to be missing. The status quo isn't working. It's holding the team hostage. It's alienating fans. And most dangerously, it's putting your future star quarterback in a position where he may not want to stick around. Because how many times can a young, driven athlete hear, "Just wait," before they stop listening? There's only so much patience a player can have when every sign points to him being ready now, yet every opportunity is delayed indefinitely. And when other teams are already circling, ready to offer reps, development, maybe even a starting job, you think that doesn't get in his head? You think Shedeur's camp isn't watching all of this unfold with raised eyebrows? You think his agents don't see the writing on the wall? They do. Everyone does. And that's what makes this so dangerous. Because if the Browns don't act soon, if they keep dragging this out while clinging to a flawed game plan, they're going to lose him. Not just physically but mentally. You'll lose the trust, the buy-in, the belief that this team is serious about building something sustainable. And once you lose that, good luck getting it back. What's even more baffling is how unnecessary all of this is. Because there was a perfect moment to ease Shedeur in. The Dolphins' game wasn't close. The outcome was never in doubt late in the second half. That's prime territory for giving your rookie some real reps in a low-pressure setting. Let him feel the tempo. Let him hear the crowd. Let him get hit. Let him learn. Instead, you left him on the sideline to rot while fans booed and social media lit up with frustration. That's not just bad optics. That's bad management. It's like the Browns are sitting on a winning lottery ticket but too scared to cash it in. And sure, you can say he's developing in practice all you want, but at some point, development has to happen under the lights. Game speed. Real decisions. Real pressure. That's where growth happens. That's where greatness starts to show itself. And if you're so afraid of what that might reveal, maybe you're not as confident in your system, or your own coaching, as you claim to be. So where does this go? Well, if Cleveland keeps playing this the way they are now, it ends one of two ways. Either Stefanski finally breaks, gives Shedeur some garbage time reps in a meaningless late-season game, and calls it progress. Or Sanders gets fed up, asks for a trade, and becomes the latest cautionary tale in a franchise that just can't seem to figure out the quarterback position. And again, this isn't just about football. It's about identity. It's about who the Browns are and what they want to be. Are they a franchise willing to take bold steps to build something lasting? Or are they content to chase comfort even if it costs them everything? Because right now they're choosing the latter. They're choosing short-term control over long-term growth. Familiar mediocrity over potential greatness. Silence over transparency. And that's not just disappointing. It's infuriating. Not just for fans but for the league. For anyone who believes talent deserves opportunity. For anyone who's tired of watching organizations mishandle their future stars because of ego, fear, or some outdated loyalty to a plan that clearly isn't working. It's time for the Browns to wake up. Not next month. Not after the next safe win. No. Before this spirals any further. Before the headlines go from, "Why isn't Shedeur playing?" to "Shedeur wants out." Because if the Browns let that moment arrive, it'll be the biggest failure of all, and they'll have no one to blame but themselves. Drop your thoughts below. Should Shedeur already be under center? Are you done with the excuses? Like, share, and subscribe if you're tired of watching teams sabotage their own future while pretending it's part of some master plan. Because the only plan we're seeing is how to ruin a good thing before it even begins.